Hello everybody, my name is Gaurav. It has been a month since we announced our first global spend analysis challenge. We receive entries from all over the world. In this session, we are going to solve the problem statement that we announced using just the Excel. So let's get right into it. This was the procurement data that we shared with all the candidates. If you look at the properties, it looks like a very typical standard procurement data, such as PO dates, product names, supplier name, unit prices, quantity, PO value, PO number, and contract. By yes or a no, it basically means whether this transaction is covered via a contract or the otherwise. We announced 4 problem statements. The first one was cost saving opportunity and amount. How many saving opportunities can we discover? Secondly, how many cases of hidden tail we can discover? I hope you remember by hidden tail we mean the transactions which are part of pre-negotiated contracts but have been placed outside of them. The third is about suspicious transactions, and the fourth, the cases of poor sourcing decisions. So all the candidates were being judged on how many opportunities they can discover under each of these classes. How will I approach this transaction? How will I approach the solution for this problem statement? Let's write it down. The first thing I will do will be, let's say here, I would always spend time in studying the data. I would always spend time in analyzing the quality of the data. So let me say the quality of data. And how will I do it? I will start by, let me write it here only, number of duplicates for item, that is a product, and suppliers. Now it's very, very important that we spend time understanding the quality. Let's do it right away. So what I will do as a first step, I will insert a pivot table like this. The first step is study whether you have duplicate suppliers, similar sounding suppliers in your data set or not. The easiest way that works for me is insert the supplier name, make sure the suppliers are in ascending or descending order alphabetically. And second, just do a simple unique count. Now Excel has a feature. So instead of count, you need to go into value field settings, scroll it down, there's an option called distinct count, and you click OK. This way you can get the distinct count. Now all of these are ones, so that means a good news for me. We don't have a duplicate supplier name problem in our data set. Some of you might not be able to find this distinct count option, and let me show you a different way of doing it. When you go and insert a pivot table, make sure you check this box, which is add this data to the data model. Only then you will be able to find this unique count option. The disadvantage of this data model based pivot table is you cannot group the transactions. You get this error. But we can always insert a normal pivot table wherever we need that grouping. So let's proceed forward. So supplier names cleared, no duplicates. We will also do the same thing for our product names or the item codes. So this is my product name. Click here, same. Instead of a normal count, do a distinct count. 1, 1, 1. So we have 3 product names. There are no duplicates. That means my first thing is okay, checked. Now that I'm clear that my product names and supplier names are clean, I need to know what's the data set I'm dealing with, get some sense of it. Now you can do this via Python, by NumPy library, where you can create heat maps, scatter plots, box plots. For me, again, since we are sticking to Excel in this series, I'll probably start with the PO date, which is again pivot page, drag it right down here. You can get, we are dealing with 4 years of data. What's the spend that we're dealing with? And when I'm inserting this, I always have a habit of keeping the column name shorter and keeping the data organized for easier interpretation. So my procurement spend is 166 million, 332, 363, and 170 million so far in 2022. Of course, Excel was kind enough to organize in quarters. I don't need quarters, I can get rid of it. Months and dates if we need it later. Now, if I want to analyze my suppliers, and pardon me, I'm keeping it quite basic to start with, I can always reorganize the data like this, move it if I don't need it, and now I have my supplier procurement spend data and see which suppliers are strategically in that 80% category or not. And I can see B, C, D is where I have my top 4 suppliers. So I have about, now what data tells me, I have about 10 suppliers and I have data for about 4 years. I don't have duplicates. Let's see what I'm buying. So instead of supply name, I can always put product names on the top. So I'm dealing with 3 products, and product A appears to be my most frequently consumed product. The supplier for product A is supplier A. Product B has 3 suppliers. Product C has so many suppliers. 8 suppliers. Excellent. And this intel is quite important for me, and you will see it why towards the latter half of this session. So now that I know what I'm dealing with in terms of data, let's try to solve our first challenge. Now, as a reference material, I will always be referring to my blog post on spend analysis, which you can find by Googling here, Medium articles, Gaurav Sharma, spend analysis, and this is the link that you will get. Now in this, I spoke about this framework, and I always start my exercise by this framework. What this framework tells me is there are about 4 sections: section A, section B, section C, and section D. The first section is always about hidden tail, which is spend outside of the negotiated contracts. Now let's go back to our Excel file, which is, again, I gave the assignment to find out the hidden tail, which is here. So the problem statement is spend outside of the negotiated contracts. To keep things organized, I'm going to insert a new table, new pivot table with the data model, and I will say hidden tail here. Okay. First, I want to see the split between contract versus non-contract purchases here. Yes, no, and then you can pull in the PO value. As I said, I have a habit of keeping things clean, so I will keep it like this. Now you would see that, okay, plus I need to deal in percentages, gives me a good idea. I will insert this again and call it as percentage, and then I go show value, and I guess it's the percentage of grand total by which you can get the percentages in. Yeah, okay. You can always limit the decimals to 1 and align this as well. Okay, so 30% of our purchases are outside of the contracts. Now, it's not unusual to have procurement outside of the contracts. All the suppliers might not agree to having a contract, or you may not be comfortable enough to commit a volume. It's perfectly fine. What is not fine is if you have already agreed to a contract and yet your buyers are placing purchase order outside of those contracts, and that's what we call as hidden tail. Now, to find out whether we have that problem in this data set, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my product name and put it here. So now this thing shouldn't happen. You should not have same product and the cases where there are spend POs from the contract, which is a yes, But there are cases where there are purchases where there is no contract. And for me, this is the problem of the hidden tail. Unfortunately, all the cases here, product A, product B, product C, have hidden tail problem statements. If you do a total of this, you roughly be at 305 million. But we need to now see the active problem, right? That's why I will bring in the POER into this conversation. Now, we can bring it here, I guess, when it comes to the value. And this is the percentage. Again, one of the things I do, I try to organize my pivot table by merging the cells so that the thing can become a bit more organized. That's it. We're going to apply a column here. Yes. So now you would see in 2022 also we have a case. The good thing is the hidden tail problem for product A started in 2022 only. So we will have to probably address this, okay, which is of 54 million. Product B is where the hidden tail problem has been consistent right from the 2019. So this is a bit more serious in nature. And the product C, again, we had a slippage of about 60 million, but in 2022, it's already higher than whole 2021, which is 86 million. So in 2022, my hidden tail problem has swelled up to 154 million. And mind you, my spend is only 174 million. So my spend is 170 million. So out of 170 million, 154 million is being placed outside of the pre-negotiated contracts. And that's what my first answer is. Hidden tail, right? And I can then put this answer here where I would say we have discovered about 155 million in product A, B, C. And what will be the recommendation here is to renegotiate the unit price discounts. And we will analyze whether we have cases where the unit price has changed or not. Renegotiate the unit price discount basis 2022 purchases. That's the ideal state. Okay, finding. Okay, to keep things clean, I'll put it here. All right, let's go. So this is the hidden tail. Now let's focus only on the hidden tail component for a while. Okay, let's go here. When you click on the unit price, you can do an average. And let's try to get rid of percentages. It's not useful enough. And this is unit price. And say U price. Okay, that's instead of sum, we can do average. Okay, price, and I can keep one decimal, not two, just to see whether the unit price has been increasing or what's the difference between the unit price from the contracted rates and non-contracted rates. So now here's the thing. You have unit prices of $1,000 till 2021 for product A. Let me get rid of the highlighters. Now see this case, the unit price was 1,000, but in 2022 it raised to 1,050. Now you, as a spend analysis manager, you might have to verify why is this case. Secondly, this is more penalizing. This is extremely penalizing to the company where the procurement done outside of the negotiated contract has resulted in increased unit prices, and we can just find out the damage by just subtracting this from this, which is about 9.6 times higher, and then later not later, we can do it even now. Just bring in the quantity here. My bad. The quantity column can actually come in here. Okay. Now when you look at the quantity column, do an auto fit. Okay. So the difference was 9.69, and look at the number of units we have procured is about this much. So when you multiply this by the differential, you get about, I think it's 2 million. Yes. So the hidden tail component for product B resulted in 2 million, or rather 2.1 million loss for the company because the buyer didn't procure from the pre-negotiated contract. And this is one of the findings that you can write in this one here. So for me, as a procurement excellence manager or a spend analysis manager, I would do a recovery of this 2 million. 2.1 million recovery to be done from supplier B. Brilliant. Okay, similarly, you will be able to see the same case, exactly the same case for product C as well. Contracted price was 60, the negotiated price was 86. Do a differential, we will do exactly the same exercise. It's about 25 units higher. Multiply this by the quantity that we have procured, and oops. Okay, I think it's another 2.6 million. That, wow, my bad. It's 26 million. Am I reading it correctly? Yes, the number of units procured are significantly higher. So that's even worse. We procured more number of units, but at a higher price, and that too outside of the pre-negotiated contracts. Recovery to be done from supplier. What was the supplier name? I don't know the supplier name. Sorry, we are talking products. So why don't we just pull the supplier name as well, making it a bit more easier. Okay. Okay. I think we have multiple suppliers in this domain, so we would probably have to deal with this later. But we have one case where supplier C is appearing 2 times. Now that's even more unacceptable. So I will pull in here, and you see this particular case. This particular case is even more disturbing. You have the same supplier, but with the different unit price. In fact, it's actually in the interest of the company, because the contract outside, the unnegotiated contract price is lower than the negotiated contract prices. So it gives me an opportunity to refresh my contractual rate. So supplier C on product B here, and this was product A. And the last one which we discovered, I will write it here, contract refresh to be done for supplier C for product B. This one, sorry, for product C. Correct it. Okay. So my total opportunity in hidden tail was about, let me summarize this. I don't need suppliers right now. On a very simple level, it's 100 million, because I don't think we have a contract for product A in year 2022, although we have contracts for product B and product C. So it's about 100 million in the opportunity I will stand corrected on this. 100 million in product B and C. Let's keep it simple for now. This is the first answer to the problem statement of hidden tail. I will take a pause here before we dive deep into the next problem statement. See you again.